Is mind over matter possible? We've seen this phrase, mind over matter, used in spiritual doctrines, parapsychology, and even in philosophy. I was surprised to learn that the concept of mind over matter was originally coined back in 1863 in reference to our evolutionary growth throughout history. In other words, how we've grown as man, able to use our minds as compared to maybe the animals. But in present day, mind over matter has come to mean that we can control a physical problem by using our mind. If we can control the physical by using our mind, does it mean that what we see in the physical world must obey our thoughts? This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize all things good, basically, to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there, and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. Today, we're talking about mind over matter, willpower, and whether or not the physical world will bend to our thoughts or our consciousness. Because there's a saying that matter must obey our consciousness. It can be no other way. And if this is true, then we'd better figure out how to work with this phenomenon if we're going to have success in life. If you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking and negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. Today's episode is for you if you wonder, is mind over matter possible, or is this just willpower? What specifically disrupts our success at mind over matter? And what would happen if we could look at things objectively without feelings? Hmm. Well, these episodes are all about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck, it's our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecisions, and even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation, it's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy, because our choice of frequency, our choice of those positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. You know, mind over matter. I was surprised to learn that this concept of mind over matter has been around since the 1800s. And for the history buffs here, it was Sir Charles Lyell who wrote a book called The Geological Evidence of the Antiquity of Man. And he said that even though we as humans have a materialistic tendency, we also have the ability to reason and to improve. And he said, let me put this quote up on the screen for you. We have a materialistic tendency, and we also have the ability to reason and to improve. And this presents us with a picture of the ever increasing dominion of mind over matter. We have a materialistic tendency, but we also have the ability to reason and to improve. And so this presents us with a picture of the ever increasing dominion of mind over matter. Now, when I look at this quote, what I read into it is that maybe because we have a materialistic tendency, we wanted to find a way to control the material things in front of us. We wanted to find a way to control matter, mind over matter. Yeah, it seems that we want to control the physical world around us for sure. Well, if we have a desire to control everything around us, then so much for the concept of letting go. It's kind of hard to implement this idea of spiritual surrender if we have a secret desire to control the physical world in front of us. And maybe you've felt this polarity, as I have. Part of us wants to surrender, part of us wants to stay in control. But the real question today is, does the physical world obey our thoughts? Must matter obey our thoughts? Well, one of my favorite authors is Wallace Wattles, who wrote The Science of Getting Rich, and he very clearly talks about how our thoughts create reality. It's an exact science, and failure is impossible. So he would say that matter must obey our thoughts. And you've watched me throw this quote up more than once on this podcast from Albert Einstein when he said, match the frequency of your desire, and you cannot help but get that desire. So Albert Einstein would also say that matter must obey our thoughts. If we're matching the frequency of our desire, then we're using mind over matter, right? So it seems to be that the physical world absolutely bends to our thoughts or to our consciousness. All right. So, what really gets in the way of this phenomenon then are our negative thoughts, our ego thinking, our frustrations, anxiety, uncertainty, our mistrust, and about 100 or 1,000 other negative thoughts and emotions and energies. That's what gets in the way of mind over matter. We sometimes stay in this mindset of confusion and doubt. So it isn't really mind over matter or that matter must obey our consciousness. It's really mind over ego thinking. Because if we can't get a hold of our negative ego thinking, if we can't stop looking at what's wrong instead of what's right, then our thoughts won't really be creating the outcomes we desire. Our thoughts will be creating more frustration, more anxiety, more uncertainty, more mistrust, and about 1,000 other things that we don't want. And if we've suffered a spiritual injury or some kind of trauma, we may really have our work cut out for us. What we're really doing here isn't just surrendering. That's kind of a big word, surrendering, right? What exactly are we surrendering? What we're really doing here is surrendering our negative thoughts. We're surrendering a consciousness that doesn't work for us. And this is why you've heard me say that first and foremost, we want to ideally be in a place where we don't let anything affect us emotionally, psychologically, or spiritually. Because if we start thinking about how wrong everything is, we can very quickly find ourselves going down a negative rabbit hole. All right. So we're talking about whether matter must obey consciousness. Does matter create thoughts, or do our thoughts create matter? Well, we talk about this every week. Our choice of frequency or our choice of thoughts can change the course of our journey. In other words, our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotion creates our energy. But what's creating our thoughts? Well, our thoughts can develop in one of two ways. Our thoughts can develop in one of two ways. One, we can simply originate a thought like life is unfolding just beautifully, and then we're creating based on the thoughts that we're choosing. That's one way. Or the second way is that we can react and respond to things around us. We can take on a perception based on what we see in our physical world, and then our perception of that event creates our thoughts. And our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions create our energy. So we can either originate a thought, which is what we do with our affirmations or brainstorming or reflecting on our vision. We originate our thoughts, or we can walk through the world responding and reacting to things we see and allow our thoughts to revolve around disharmony. So, when I say that it's ideal to not let anything affect us emotionally, psychologically, or spiritually, I'm saying let's not put so much into what we see in the physical world. Instead, let's focus on creating from our vision. We can either look at the bankruptcy we're facing, or the divorce we're facing, or the loss of our business, and we can entertain thoughts about how bad it all is, or we can choose to direct our thoughts. And in doing so, we're directing our emotions, and we're also directing the energies. We can look at the bankruptcy or divorce or the loss of our business and swipe left, even for just a moment, and choose the thoughts we're going to think in order to shift the energy around. Remember, thoughts create reality, and it's an exact science. So let's be mindful about our perceptions and our thoughts. Okay, one side note here about mind over matter is the misuse of willpower. The misuse of willpower. We can't rely on willpower. Quite frankly, it simply doesn't work. Willpower is usually driven by emotions, and our emotions can go either negative or positive. Our negative emotions can sometimes land us into a negative situation, and that's what keeps us stuck to a negative situation. When we want success, then we want to be mindful that we're directing our emotions toward a positive outcome, even if we can't see what that positive outcome is yet. So, when we talk of mind over matter, I just want to put a little spotlight on the misuse of willpower and why it sometimes fails us. We aren't using willpower here. We aren't using willpower. We aren't falling back on our emotions. We're directing our thoughts toward a positive outcome in spite of physical evidence so that our thoughts and emotions can serve us in the highest and best ways possible. All right. So, we're talking about our perceptions and how they turn into thoughts. Let's break this down a little bit more. In our universe, we can't study something objectively. What we tend to do instead is we affect what we're looking at when we observe it. We affect what we're looking at as we observe it. Now, I know that sounds a little confusing, so let me say it a different way. Our thoughts about what we're observing affects and shapes our future possibilities. Our thoughts about what we're observing affects and shapes our future possibilities. In other words, if we're facing bankruptcy, we can't seem to look at it objectively. Instead, we tend to look at it with feelings. We can't look at our bankruptcy and simply stick to the facts. We tend to look at it with our feelings. If we're facing divorce, we can't seem to look at that objectively either. Instead, we look at it with feelings. Our thoughts about our situation shapes our future. And if we've suffered a loss, like the loss of our business or the loss of anything really, we can't seem to just look at the facts. We can't seem to be objective. We tend to look at things with our feelings. So if we look at our situation, and whether we look at just the facts or whether we look at it with feelings, either way, we're creating a perception about it. And whatever perception we create creates our thoughts. Our thoughts create those emotions, and our emotions create an energy or frequency. So the question becomes, what would happen if we looked at our bankruptcy or divorce or the loss of our business factually? What if we just listed out 10 quick facts about our situation? Didn't create any perception at all. Could we just list out 10 things, set our list aside, and then direct our thoughts toward a better than expected outcome? If we could develop a skill of looking at things objectively without emotion, could we harness the power of directing our thoughts where we want them to go? Could this be our hidden power? Does our situation have to create our thoughts, or can we direct our thoughts to create a new and better situation? We'll see the world differently depending on how we choose to look at it. It's all about discernment and choice, discerning what our thoughts are, what they could be, then making a choice. If thoughts create matter, then we want to be able to discern between a healthy outlook and then make a choice to direct our thoughts toward a positive new future. As we empower ourselves toward self expression and who we are at our core without the negative thoughts and emotions that can drain us, we're choosing a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? The question that I posed at the top of this episode was, if we can control the physical by using our mind, does it mean that what we see in the physical world must obey our thoughts? Does matter have to obey consciousness? If it does, then let's direct our thoughts toward a better than expected outcome. All right. I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. You still can't get your head around what's got you stuck in life or in business, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions at unlockyourhiddenpower.com, or you may not know that you can schedule a one on one session with your own personal unstuckologist, that's me, by visiting instantbreakthroughsession.com. This private session is designed to help you tap into your greatest resource, that's you, and together we can make quite a team toward calling in the transformational powers of alchemy. In our time together, we'll uncover your single biggest stuck point, the one that you maybe can't see. And we'll also go over the most genius way to create clarity so you can just move forward while one obstacle after another is obliterated. And we'll create a strategy to get you moving in a really good direction, the one that's aligned with your life purpose. If this sounds like a match made in heaven, you can hop on over to instantbreakthroughsession.com right now and book the time slot that works best for you. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all of the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.